Moving over to quarterbacks on the love-hate list here, we talked about during pass catchers, love Keenan Allen this week, and we got to hear from his quarterback who might make the love list here on how all of his weapons make his life easier.
I think that's the great thing about our offense is that we've got so many weapons, and I think just having people out there that make plays, I think that takes the pressure away, like you said, and having a run game and having guys to throw the ball on the outside with Keenan, Mike, Q, and Josh, they've done such an incredible job that my job is just to get them the ball in space and let them do the cool things.
Justin Herbert downplaying his overall impact on the team, giving a lot of credit to his weapons, but Jay, Justin Herbert sits atop the love list for our quarterbacks this week. He comes in for Barry as QB4 as he faces that Titans secondary.
Yep. Firstly, like the bend it like Beckham look from Justin Herbert. You should give that a go, Matthew.
I wish. I would kill for that hair. He's got beautiful long locks.
You need step one before step three.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm doing the best I can with what I got. I just don't got much.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Fair. Just say Puka Nakua, no worries to yourself, and you'll get through that, Matthew.
Means no worries.
Justin Herbert last year when he played the Titans. Threw the ball 42 times. That's just the recipe against Tennessee. Just every single week, you cannot run on this team. You can absolutely throw on them. Herbert's passing prop is 283.5 for yardage. I think that's probably too low. I think this team is going to throw a lot, and Herbert should really be the beneficiary, particularly after a week where they really committed to the run. But I think that was just based on the matchup, and this matchup would dictate that they're going to throw a ton.
Since the start of last year, no team in the NFL has allowed more passing yards than the Tennessee Titans as well. We've talked about this again. When your defense all week has to stop Derrick Henry in practice, that's what the secondary gets after there. Again, they gave over 300 yards to Derek Carr in week one. Hashtag analysis, but Justin Herbert better than Derek Carr.
Next up on the list here in the AFC, Trevor Lawrence, of course, going up against that Chiefs secondary. Lawrence and Calvin Ridley, that connection looked amazing week one, Barry. And it's not just Calvin Ridley. He has Zay Jones there who had a really effective week. You'd think Christian Kirk at least has a little bit of a bounce back in some capacity. And he has Evan Ingram. Trevor Lawrence makes the love list this week.
Yeah, we talked about him when we were talking about Ridley as well. But it's a great matchup. Since the start of last year, no team in the NFL has allowed more touchdown passes than the Kansas City Chiefs. When Lawrence played the Chiefs last season, 29-40, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also ran for 26 yards, had a really nice game, 21 fantasy points. We think Lawrence is better this year. He's got more weapons. It's his second year in the system as well. This is a home game, by the way. Kansas City has to go to Jacksonville for this one. So, yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence has a very big game. He's my QB6 this week. He looked all sorts of ready against the Colts, and now this should be a shootout, as we've talked about once again. Per our friends at DraftKings, the over-under in this one, 51.
Yep, and also I think it helps that Chris Jones here is back, but I mean, by his own admission, he said that he will find out if he's in football shape, so I'm not sure he's going to be on a full complement of snaps. We saw Nick Bosa with his first game back get kind of limited work after playing a lot early. Trevor Lawrence, basically since halfway through last season, Lawrence has been close to the best quarterback in football. He has really been a monster, and I think he'll want to make a statement against the best quarterback in football, Patrick Mahomes.
Our last one here, rookie Anthony Richardson, who finished as a top 5 quarterback in fantasy week 1. The Colts travel to Houston, so things might get... Listen, Houston's defense looked good against Lamar Jackson. We don't know if that's going to be sustainable year 1 for DeMeco Ryans, but Jay, Anthony Richardson, whether it's the rushing, even some of the throwing as well, the goal line work, they're running out of running backs. There's a lot of reason to be very optimistic about him in week 2.
Yeah, and I think week 1 was the epitome of what Anthony Richardson is going to be. It wasn't super efficient. It was much better fantasy-wise than real-life football winning games-wise, but for fantasy purposes, we don't care. And he's a top 5 quarterback, and he's got a hugely favorable matchup. And I guess he probably wants to make a statement against C.J. Stroud, who went above him in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point here. Because he had 40 rushing yards. To your point, Evan Hall is banged up, Dean Jackson ineffective last week. We'll see if they get Zach Moss back and what he can do here. So I think Anthony Richardson finishing as the Colts' leading rusher is well within the range of possibilities here. 37 pass attempts last week, and so maybe he doesn't throw as much, but I do think he's more effective in a better matchup against the Texans. The other thing that I think is really encouraging, they had 3 goal-to-go rushes last week, the Colts did. Anthony Richardson got 2 of them. So we expect him to get in the end zone a couple of times here. He's a top 10 quarterback for me in week number 2.
Some others receiving votes. Daniel Jones on this list after the Cowboys. He basically goes from the basement to the penthouse in matchups. He has the Cardinals. Brock Purdy, who looked incredible against the Steelers in week 1. He'll face the Rams at the Rams. And then we talked about it earlier. The Seahawks pass rushes, they really couldn't get going. They have a tough matchup against that Lions offensive line. That's good news for Jared Goff here, Barry.
When Goff has a clean pocket, he's unbelievable. You think about the Seahawks, who allowed 334 passing yards to Matthew Stafford last week, the second most of any team in week number 1, and now they get Jared Goff at home in the Dome, where he normally plays well, against Seattle as well. Fourth highest implied team total for the Lions this week per DraftKings. Goff isn't a borderline QB1 this week, just outside my top 12, and yeah. Brock Purdy, all he does is throw 2 touchdowns every single game,
And no picks. He doesn't turn the ball over.
No. We're merely, I think we are, at this point, I think we're 2.5 weeks away from Brocktober.
Brocktober. Well, on Brocktober and Brock 2023, which is a campaign I'm about to launch, Brock Purdy's 25-1 to win MVP because he's Brock Purdy. His statistical profile is going to be a lot better than someone who is 25-1 in the market. Because if you extrapolate his start to his career out over a full season, it's like 4,000 yards, close to 40 touchdowns, and like 5 interceptions. If he does that on the team that right now has the best chance of any team in the league to finish with the 1 seed, because they're division and they don't have Dallas and Philadelphia fighting with each other, I think Brock Purdy could win MVP. 25-1.
So let me spin it this way.
I like that bet.
I do too. Do you think Kyle Shanahan gets so much of the credit that Kyle Shanahan becomes a much more interesting Coach of the Year bet because of that narrative?
I think what you do is you back that and Shanahan Coach of the Year, and then you just, whoever gets the credit, you're covered.
There you go. Real quickly, just on the hate list here, Dak Prescott, he's playing the Jets. He doesn't need to run. Look, I mean, the fact of the matter is Josh Allen is better than Dak Prescott. Josh Allen had 4 turnovers against the Jets. I don't expect Dak Prescott to go crazy again. He doesn't run as well. Since the start of last season, the Jets allowed touchdown passes at the lowest rate in the NFL. Brandon Cook's already dealing with an injury there. This should be a low-scoring game. He's my QB18, Dak Prescott is. And Russell Wilson, look, sorry about it, Russell, but, listen, 38.5 over-under. It's the lowest of any game in week 3. I think, in week 2. There should be a offensively challenged game between my Commanders and the Broncos. He had only 1 rushing attempt. Russell Wilson doesn't run anymore. That's the other concern as well. So since week 10 of last year, my Commanders allowing the second fewest passing yards per game as well. Both Wilson and Howell are outside my top 15. Howell's not on the hate list because he is a future Hall of Famer, but Russell Wilson is. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.